Alright. It's registering all my extensions. Alright, so I apologize, I don't have like a strict demo prepared. I just have my huge long list of all the modules that I really appreciate. And oh man, it's going crazy adding all my extensions. So I'm just gonna go through and talk about all these modules. Basically, this just started because I had a bunch of modules I wanted to remember about and come back to or learn more about because they're cool. So I'm just gonna go through and I have them organized to what area of your site they're helpful with. And I have this Google Doc up right now, and I'm also thinking about maybe putting it on the Drupal camp website as in the actual website instead of just a Google Doc. But I'm just going to go through the Google Doc and talk about the different modules. And then if you guys really want to see something demoed or see how it works or talk more about it or ask questions, just ask questions, okay? Or if you have a specific thing you're wondering is possible, we could look that up at the end or something too if you guys want. So basically, I've organized this whole list, menu related, taxonomy related, stuff for the content editor's experience. That stuff I'm gonna save for my talk tomorrow about content editor and layout related modules that help with those kind of things. You'd be surprised, there's a lot of modules just about the title, like if you want to exclude it from display, or if you want to have it not be an option ever and not be required, or if you want to make sure that the title is always unique, you could do that. You can turn the title into a regular field so you have more options with it. Basically, this presentation is all about lots of cool things you can accomplish with Drupal modules. So I guess we'll start up here with menu navigation. If any of you guys have used a book module, it allows you to group content together kind of in the format of a book, where you go from section to section and it has navigation and it's grouped in an orderly fashion. So that for that module, for the book module, Book Explorer provides a nice menu for that. There were a few cool menu modules I was looking at that I've always thought were interesting. Menu editor module makes it easier to manage your menu links. Instead of having to click all the way in to your menu item and click edit menu, click on the link, click edit the actual link, you can have your whole menu screen and you can see all your links, all the URLs, and if they're enabled or not. So it makes it a lot faster to edit menu links. I'll just see if some of these have screenshots. Multiple node menu. Sometimes people have wanted to have the same node or article in the menu in different places. Right now, Drupal doesn't really support that, and you could kind of like go around it by like having another page that forwards to the real page or something. But this multiple node menu module allows you to have it in two different places in the menu at once. I also have modules further down that are about editing the menu further in the content editor section. Yeah? Oh, yeah, thanks. We'll zoom. Is that better? Yeah, thanks. Okay, let's do taxonomy. Let's see. So this menu editor, here I'll just show you a picture. This is what it turns the main menu editing page into. Normally you can't change the title, you can't change the path, you can't enable it without clicking edit and then changing these things. But it makes it a lot faster, which is nice. This one allows it changes your taxonomy vocabularies into menus. It's an interesting thing you wouldn't do all the time, but maybe you would. That also provides a mini block. Let's see. Oh, here's another cool one. When you have your term page and it lists all the content that is related to a certain tag or category, and this is more useful for static content, but you can reorder the order of content. Honestly, it's probably easier to create a view and reorganize your taxonomy term page if you want to order by a certain field. But if you want to just manually change the order because you want to change it, you can, which is nice, because without that module you can't do that. Tag clouds is a cool one. That's one that I actually am working on adding right now to the Drupal campsite, because I'm adding tags to all the sessions and future information that we're going to be posting for resources and things on the Drupal campsite for training. And tag cloud creates this cloud of showing different terms with their size according to their popularity. Or you can also show how many articles there are that are, or pieces of content that are tagged with that tag, etc. So that's kind of nice. You don't have to build it yourself, it just works. We're going to skip content editors and layout related since we're talking about those. I'm talking about those tomorrow. Title related, like if you just want to hide the title so that you don't ever see it, you can. This one I've used a lot actually. If you want to auto-generate the node title, or if you want to allow them to rewrite it but you don't want to make it required every time, or if you want to get rid of it completely, then it's an auto-generated that's hidden basically, because it has to have one basically, but it's, for all intents and purposes, you don't have to have one. You can also do the same with your node if it's an entity reference. This is also nice for checking for uniqueness. If there's a certain case where you have books and authors and you're adding a book and it has the exact same title as another book, then it would alert you and be like, this book already exists, make sure your title is unique, and then it'll help you avoid having duplicate nodes on your site. You can also do the same. You can do the same for unique fields. It just checks it when you save it. This one checks as you type it, which is nice. Image and related modules. This is a really common subject. I feel like we've had to do a lot of work figuring out how to deal with images. There's several modules that help you get image captions on your images. There's also a really nice CCatter plugin called Enhanced Image that allows you to center your image, drag and drop, resize your image, and add captions. So if you end up putting images inside the body of your text, that's the one I would recommend. So it's not that one's not a module, it's a CCatter plugin in your library. And does everyone, probably not everyone knows how to do that, but I think we're doing that later. Tomorrow when I'm talking about things that help the content editor, I'm going to go through a bunch of CCatter libraries that will help make it easier when you're putting in content or editing or doing things like that on your notes. If you use IMCE for uploading images, which is one of the most common ways, this one allows you to make directories so you can organize the images that you upload. This one lets you crop YouTube and media fields. This one is nice for if you have users that don't have a lot of training, you just want to make it really easy. Video embed field, you just paste in the link and it embeds it, which is really This one you can do a link or embed the file itself. Okay, the picture module is a little bit complicated, but I would encourage you to use it if responsive images is a priority on your site. The picture module allows you to load a larger or smaller image based on the breakpoint. So you use the breakpoints module and you define breakpoints in your site, so probably, you know, tablet sizes and various things like that. And then you tell it, okay, in this view or in this for this image, like let's say you have a view and you have your thumbnail image and you need to change the size when you get to tablet and mobile, then you can tell it, you define those image styles and it will automatically change. But it won't just display it in a different size, it will load the smaller size. Then you can have a huge image banner that when on mobile doesn't take up all of your loading time. So that's why the picture module is really effective. It does have a little bit of a learning curve, it's a little bit complicated, but it works really nicely. And I've got a link to some instruction if you are interested in trying to do that. As far as responsive design, it's great to start with a responsive theme in the beginning. Also, if you don't have good resources to make your whole theme responsive, you could consider using this module mobile theme, which allows you to set a different theme for mobile, and then you can just find a simple or basic mobile responsive theme online, and then all you have to do is just define to use that other one and maybe change a few colors. If you want to have a simple mobile interface and you don't have the resources to make your whole current theme responsive, that's an option I wanted to mention. This is a really cool one I'm going to talk more about tomorrow. Context breakpoint allows you to set up different layouts for your different sizes of screen. So it really helps you be able to move things around. Like on mobile, you want to have your most important things at the top because that's like your prime commercial space. And you're very limited on space on mobile, so you want to make the most important things first. And don't waste your time having to scroll through all the unimportant things to get to what they really want. So the nice thing about using this context breakpoint with panels and some other layouting tools is that you can define completely different layouts based on the breakpoint size, based on the size of your screen. Also, FitVids is a nice simple module. It makes your embedded videos responsive. Views related. I really like using views PHP because sometimes I can't get my data to show up in the exact way that I want without reformatting it, or I want to check something and I have to do it with PHP and then based on that display certain things. So it basically adds a PHP field on your view, and then you can access other fields in the view to work with in your PHP, and then you return, and then you specify what it returns. Insert view. This is a nice one we had to use for the new site. Normally you can display a view in a block, but that limits you to only being able to display at the end or beginning of a body field, or at the end or beginning of a node. With this insert view, it allows you to use a token for your view and put it within the body of your page, so that you. So for our use case, we created an image slider view, and they wanted to be able to put that image slider wherever they wanted in the text of the page, not just at the beginning or the end in a separate block. They wanted to put it inside the text, and so using insert view and using that token, you can embed any view wherever you want inside your text. And there's some really good documentation on how to do it. And then for that case, since you have to have that exact token, I just put that token in the instruction for the body field. If you want to include the photo slideshow inside the story, copy and paste this tag. Let's see. Admin views are a huge help. If you guys aren't using admin views right now, you probably should. It helps, it improves the admin pages by giving you more options. Like the content, overall content page, it adds different filters so you can easily filter your content, a few different things like that, which is really nice. And because it changes those pages into views that you can customize them yourself as well and add as many custom filters as you would like. So for example of that, on the new site, oops, on the new site, we wanted to, there's a lot of stories, and they wanted to be able to see who wrote the story, but they wanted to be able to list the author from a field, not the actual user author, or they wanted to be able to see the media contact field on there. And so, so being able to customize the admin page and put in whatever fields you'd like to display is really convenient. Now I'll show you an example of what that's like right here. So the Drupal author, that's the username, like the actual user. But for stories, they wanted to be able to see the media contact and writer right here, which those are just fields. So making this an admin view allows you to put in all these different filters, so they could come in and say, well, I wanted one of the media contact to be Emily, and I see all of her stories. So that was really convenient. Okay, this is really cool. Editable views. It works with some simple field types, but you can have a view where you can actually edit the value in the view, which is kind of cool. And that would be really useful for making like an administration page for the content editor to go in and be able to change things. And let's see, views field set. I'm gonna skip through this part. It's really old. View slideshow. View slideshow is a great way to create a slideshow because you can put in whatever data and content you want, rather than using a different slideshow module. It's nice to use views because then you can have, you can pull your banners from a content type or however you have it set up, but also other fields. So if you wanted to have your image and then overlay it with a title and a caption or something, you could overlay that and then link it somewhere. You know, there's a lot you can do because it's views and it's flexible that way. These are a few modules that are nice for creating a type of gallery, or here I'll show you guys their module pages. They have pictures of how they work. This one creates this kind of a layout where you can slide through and they get smaller and bigger, and this looks nice for an image slideshow. This one is also similar where it has a main big focus image and then it has all the other ones and you can scroll through those. So those are just kind of two nice presentations that work with View Slideshow. We're going to talk about these later. Oh, this one is nice. If how many of you guys just went to the rules session that they just had? Yeah. Okay, so this one is nice because this allows you to trigger a rule by clicking the link. So if you wrote a rule that said go and do a certain thing with content, you could have an admin page for your content editors or something and allow them to run the rule whenever they wanted. So that's super nice because most rules are triggered by an event, but sometimes you want to have that control yourself to run a rule. There's Drupal commerce stuff. Let me skip through that. Oh, this is nice so that when you're using Drush, you can find out which projects aren't being used and see if they're just taking up space on your server. Um, this one is cool. I haven't used it, but my brother set it up on a website. Apache Solar. It's a very it's like a strong searching module, and he set it up to actually search through the text of uploaded documents on the site. So it was for a company that had a lot of documentation in PDFs and Word documents, but not on the site, and they needed people to be able to search through those documents to find the answers. And so you can use that module to do that. A lot of people have thought that Drupal isn't SEO friendly. It's like a myth or something that Drupal isn't as SEO friendly as WordPress or something, because WordPress had a lot of SEO stuff built in with keywords and things. The meta tag module is the most commonly used one for working on keywords and things for SEO. Email related. This is a cool module, and a lot of these modules you can find on like lists of popular modules or find searching, but some of them have been hard to find because of the way they're phrased or the way they're named, or just because they serve a very specific purpose, or they're very small and they're not very well known. So this one is kind of a small one, but I really liked it. It lets you, when you display an email, normally you have to have a link to the email or something like that, or you hide the email. But this one actually lets you display the link as a link to the email within a contact form. So you still don't reveal the email, and you can either have an embedded contact form that pops up, or you can link to a separate page that has the contact form. So I really like that because you don't have that display type without that module, and it's been really convenient for me. Simple News is a nice setup for sending out emails. These are the two modules I talked about in my accessibility presentation today. This one helps you spot issues with your site, and this one allows you to require the alt tag on images to improve, for best practice, you require that they have to have an alt tag on all images that are uploaded. And again, if you guys have questions about any of these, it's not super complicated stuff, but if you guys are curious about how things work, go ahead and ask. But, this one is super cool. Arrange fields. It literally provides this interface where you can take the fields for the node or for the web form and drag them around and place them where you want. Like, rather than trying to put it into a layout and put like, well, I want a column like this and this and this, you can just drag and drop and arrange it how you want it to look. I think it has issues with super complicated fields, but for most of the fields I think it works great. So I would definitely check that out if that's something you're interested in. And this is for inputting the field values, not the display of the actual node, but putting all the things, putting the values into the node. So if you want to not have it just a super long list of fields as they're entering things in, if you want to make it more compact or put stuff on the side, you can. Let's see. We did a complex web form for the TravelSmart site, and I used a lot of fields to get the field types that I wanted. Address field lets you select which country and then provides all the address fields you would need for that country. So like for Canada, it doesn't put state, it puts province, etc. Let's see. Let's see. Web form references allows you to make entity references within the web form. Web form workflow allows you to add states so that if someone submits a web form, like for example for the TravelSmart one, they submitted requests and then they would get approved to this stage, approved to this stage, approved to this stage. So it's a convenient way you don't have to, it replaces the system of emailing and then so-and-so emailing so-and-so and keeping track of a spreadsheet and keeping track of everyone's status. So that was really nice. An alternate thing would be to, I think there's a module for when to turn web form submissions into nodes, and then everything you can do with a node, you can do with that. Then you can use the regular workflow module that also has states and approval things, and then you can do whatever you want with those submissions because they're now a node. Also, if you want to limit certain roles on the web, or certain fields on the web form to certain roles, this allows you to do that. There's a lot of separate modules just for web form stuff because they aren't the same as nodes, and there's a lot of capability with nodes and different modules for nodes that don't work for web form. So there's all these alternate modules that work for web form. Calendar related stuff. The add to cal module makes it easy to add a certain event to your Google Calendar, Outlook Calendar. That's a note to myself to look at that because I'm working on the calendar website project. This is a unique module that you might not need, but it might be exactly what you need. Instead of putting a time, like a start time, just to put an interval. Like if you were building a recipe site and you wanted to put how long it takes, or if you were putting a class, an online course thing together, and you wanted to say that this section takes 2 hours, this section takes 5 hours, then you could do that. This kind of fun module lets you embed the RSVP information from a Facebook event. So if you have the event on Facebook, but you also want to show the information on your page, that's really nice. There's various modules for speeding up websites, aggregating your files. This one allows things to load multiple things at a time, so it goes faster. Required by rule. This is another one that I've used recently. For example, for the calendar site, we have people can submit events, and we want to require that they put their name and their contact information if they do that. But if the editor of the site creates an event, we don't want them to have to put that in every time. So we can require that field only for a certain role, only for guest submitters. Oh, Masquerade is a really nice module if you want to see what it looks like for your end user. With Masquerade, you can you basically view the site as a different role or as a different person, which is really convenient for testing it out and seeing if it's working, or how, especially like testing permissions, because it will simulate it as if you are that person. You don't have to go to them and say, try this out for me, tell me if it works. Node limit. This is kind of interesting. You wouldn't do it all the time, but if you wanted to limit someone to only be able to create 10 nodes, you might want to do that. I was building a site where I was letting people put their projects up and work on them and get feedback and things like that, but I wanted to limit it because I didn't want people to just create a ton and just leave them there. So I put a limit of only like 10 projects at once, you know. I was assuming they weren't writing more than 10 novels at a time. It was a creative writing website. This computed field module is convenient because it allows you to add things up. So if someone, you can calculate the value. So basically, if they were putting in certain, I don't know, there's a lot of ways you could use that. It is limited to like mathematically computed fields. I was looking for something that would combine like text or different things like that, but that one is mathematical. We talked about this earlier. This one is cool because it allows you to require unique values. So if we talked about it before in the example of the author of the book, but if you wanted to be able to let someone only put in a certain field one time, like a person's name, if they can only be entered once or something, then that's a nice one to use. The diff module helps you identify differences between two sites. If you were, I think that's what it is. I can't remember. I haven't looked at this one for a while. I think it's for when, let's see. Oh, it's added or changed deleted words between revisions. So if you set up a revisioning system on your site and you have different versions of your content, you can find out what the differences are between the last version and this version. So that's kind of useful for editors. Yeah, but that's my big, long, extensive list of a ton of modules that I found. I've just been keeping track of all the ones I didn't want to forget about. Do you guys have any questions about things you want to be able to do with Drupal, but you're not sure how? If you can, do you guys have questions about any specific modules in general, how they work? Yeah. Yeah, okay. Let's go ahead and look at the meta tag module. There's a lot of modules that work with meta tag also. But one of the nice things is when you're sharing to Facebook and you want the right image to come through, or the right that little description that pulls in when you share on Facebook, you can define those with meta tags. I think if Rachel here? Yeah, Rachel worked on that for the new site recently. But it lets you like tag where the page title is, these kind of standard things that you want to improve your SEO rating. There's some other modules that do some of the things, but a lot of it, as you can see, merged into meta tag. So it's kind of like the SEO module to use because all these individual functionality has been merged into this one. So global settings to control meta tags on all pages. You can also specify things per entity, per entity bundle. Multilingual support, that's nice too. Do you have other questions or specific questions? Okay. The XML sitemap is good because it just creates a sitemap of your site. Okay, so here, this is the picture of what the interface looks like. So for example, when something gets shared on Facebook or something, it will find the title, summary, and you can define this per node. You can define it per content type. So you can say it inherits all of these things, but I want to change this one thing. Maybe article is the only content type that has the field tags, like other things like an event wouldn't maybe, and so you just add, I want all these settings, but also my keywords are from this tag field here. You can do the same thing for taxonomy terms and for users, because often you end up using users like you add fields to them and display them, and they have profiles basically. That happens a lot. That they're not only users that log in, but users that can be seen. Does that help? Does anybody else have questions? Yeah. Yes, so I would do workbench. Oh, sorry, I'm not used to this keyboard. And there's a couple of modules that I've used with it, but Workbench creates this nice kind of dashboard kind of page. It shows you recent content you've edited, all recent content, and it has some quick links for editors. Then also, Workbench moderation allows you to set allows you to set up roles and stages that the content can go through. So like we use this on the news site. Writers can create content, and then their editors can approve their content, and then they can see what stage their content is in. They can request it to be looked at. The editor can send it back to be edited more. So here's the screenshot for this. Let's see. So this is the screen where you can see all the different revisions that this node has gone through. You can see it was drafted, and then someone published it. This version was published, and then another draft was created, and then that draft went published version, etc. And needs review is like the middle stage. So you can view what's published, and then you can view the current draft if someone's working on an improvement. You can edit the current draft. Once it's published, though, you can't change that version. You have to create a new version, because that's how the revisioning system works. I don't think they have another screenshot of well, I have it here. You can see Workbench. I'll go to my Workbench, and then you can see these are my recent edits, and I can create content. I can go to my drafts. I don't have any drafts that haven't been published yet, but they would show up here. And when I create a story and it's ready to be reviewed by the editor, I can go in and change the status to needs review. And it's down at the bottom right where you say if it's published or not. You can change it to needs review status. Then I can go to my needs review tab, and I can see these are all the ones that are waiting to be published. And then the editor has permission. See, I'm an admin right now, so I'm viewing it as an editor. I can say change to draft, it's not ready, or change to publish. And you can define a lot of different permissions with roles for what states they can change things to. I'll just show you the permissions real quick on it. So you could say moderate all content from draft to needs review. So writers can do that because changing it to needs review signals that it's ready to be checked, right? They can revert their own thing back if they made a mistake. But the only one that can change needs review to published is the editor. Yeah. Workbench moderation takes over the publishing permissions. So up above, we'll look at. That's a good question. We'll come up here to node, and you can see on a story, everyone can create new content. They can edit their own content, etc. But there isn't anything about publishing. They just can publish things by default unless you have this moderation system. Does that answer your question? So no, you don't need to change. This is pretty standard. They can create it, they can edit their own, they can delete their own. That's pretty standard. What I would recommend though is I don't let the writers edit any content, right? Because they're only working on their own. But editors can edit anybody's content, right? So for Workbench access, you basically just have to, you go into the content type, and you edit the content type, and down here, under publishing options, you have to say you have to enable create new revision, because I think by default Drupal you can have revisions, but this is a good revisioning system complete with this module. So you click create new revision, which allows different versions of the node, and then enable moderation of revisions. Then you set the default moderation state to draft, probably because that's what your writers will be saving as, and you don't want it to default to needs review if they're not going to be ready. So you default to draft, and you can change what these are called, these states. And then you give the roles access to change states how you want, and then they can just use the Workbench pages and tabs here to see where things are at and to change the states where they can. Does that help? Okay. Any other questions? Yeah. Yeah, actually, have you seen these things under reports? So under reports, status report is good. I'll go through these three first. So the status report tells you any problems you have. It says, okay, the permissions on that file folder needs to be changed. If you have a module that's not working, sometimes you can come see in here and it'll say library is missing, and then you realize it can't find a certain library. It'll tell you you need to add it here, or I'm looking right here and I can't find it. But this isn't as much of errors, but some issues. So I always check there. Available updates, you can see if you need security updates. But under reports, you can go to recent log messages, and that's where you get errors and warnings and notifications. And you can filter those to what area of Drupal under this section here. You can say I only want to look at PHP ones, or I only want to look at cron ones, or file system ones, and I only want to see error, critical error, or any of those, and you can filter it. You can also, if you're getting a ton, you can also clear it out, redo whatever you were doing that generates the errors, and then it'll be cleaner to see. There's some other modules that help you debug, like there's a rules debugging module if you're having issues with rules specifically, but I don't know of any other specific ones to tell you. Any other questions? Anything that you want to know more about, or you want me to talk about more? Okay, thank you guys for coming. We have about 10 minutes till our next session. We're going to do a lightning session, and we're going to be talking about, there's a few people that have ideas. If you guys have an idea for something you want to talk about, maybe it's a setup you want to do and you want to see if other people have done it, you want to get ideas from people how to do it, or if it's something you just want to learn more about or tell people about that you've done, you can bring it up. So I think we're going to be doing that here in 10 minutes, and then we'll probably split into groups to talk about the different topics. So thanks, guys.